Looking back on Dune Prophecy Season 1, perhaps one of the biggest missed opportunities in this series was the potential to properly showcase a few of the foundational elements that make Frank Herbert's universe what it is. Many feel that a TV series format is ideal for expanding on certain aspects of this mythos that a movie just doesn't have the time to do. However, even in this television format, Season 1 only had 6 episodes. And with the well-documented production chaos and creative shakeups of Season 1, it's not surprising that the series leaves a lot to be desired. But that being said, I do think this show is salvageable for the second season, which has been greenlit, and I think there may be a chance that a smoother production process for Season 2 will allow for a deeper and fuller depiction of the scope of the Duneverse. In examining what was accomplished in the first 6 episodes of this series, it does come across as largely setup for Season 2. So we're introducing the characters of Valia and Tula. That's a big thing that Season 1 wanted to accomplish. It also seemed they wanted to accomplish getting Valia Harkonnen and Inez Carino and Kieran Atreides, members from very notable families in Dune, on Arrakis. That's like the last shot, I believe, that we see is these 3 people walking onto Arrakis. We haven't really seen it. We've seen Desmond Hart's perspective of the rebel assault and sandworm attack, but it's been very much not connected to that. They haven't stepped foot on Arrakis, really. And Arrakis is the center of the universe. It is so integral to the Imperium that it was kind of odd that we really didn't feel the weight of Arrakis. I even thought that they mishandled spice itself. The way they depicted it was little more than a party drug. They never really talked about how valuable it is. And there are several times in the show, people are taking drugs. I'm not sure if all of it was spice, but they're taking all sorts of drugs, especially in the nightclub. And in one scene too, with Harrow Harkonnen and Desmond gives Harrow some drug for him to snort. I'm not sure if it's spice, but if it is, it seems so pedestrian. We have no idea how much money someone just snorted up their nose. That's what my point is, making light of its use. You had people literally dumping barrels of spice during a raid on the nightclub. And that is so much wealth that you just spilt onto the floor and wasted. Not to mention it's a narcotic, so it didn't make sense for them to just spread it all over and get in the air. This connects to the sin that the show commits, that it presumes that you already know why spice is so valuable. It presumes that you've probably watched Denis Villeneuve's movies at least, and already know those things. The thing is, even with Denis Villeneuve's films, the world building in it is very streamlined. This is your opportunity to expand and deepen and enrich the lore and universe of Dune. And again, they just fell back on, well, the movies came out. People must have watched those and know the significance of spice. But the show itself should have established why it's so valuable. Not to just think that you already know, that you already really know about the Machine Crusade, that you have maybe sort of a cursory knowledge of the expanded Dune books and have somewhat of a care towards the Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson characters already. The show needs to do the work to make us care and to introduce integral elements of this IP. What makes Dune Dune? And part of that is we need to feel like we are in the wake of that Machine Crusade, of the Butlerian Jihad, the great revolt against thinking machines. There were so many AI and thinking machines used in this show. It just didn't feel Dune to me in that regard. I know we're in a different time, but if you're gonna set your show hundreds of years after that event, what's the point in showing that and in establishing that? Because in the opening couple minutes, you say that society rid themselves from enslavement to thinking machines. But in every episode, there was a thinking machine. There was this softness towards AI in general. I didn't feel like society really viewed technology in that way. And every episode, thinking machine upon thinking machine. And it really doesn't seem like the sentiment is that we need to get rid of them in order to advance ourselves. It doesn't feel that they're trying to adapt within the void of thinking machines. Every new episode, there was another thinking machine. A toy, we had a fully AI hunter seeker in the finale. And when we saw what happened to Desmond, that itself made it kind of underwhelming to me. That, oh, a thinking machine did this to him and that's the source of his powers. But we'd already seen so many thinking machines. It again just made that revelation feel flat and underwhelming. The majority of Dune fans who would appreciate this, I would think, would be in that camp of the Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson fans. But also, I feel you may also suffer from the same things that I do, which is, in general, it's just not a well-developed and well-crafted show. It's very uneven, revelations that just feel criminally underutilized and underwhelming, characters that I just don't understand what their motivations are and why they're doing the things that they're doing. Like Empress Natalia. I never understand what the deal is with her. I never understood it. She's supposed to be religious. We're told that, but I don't see that. They never showed her being very spiritually minded, very spiritually ideologically driven. We never once see her with an Orange Catholic Bible in her hands. We never see her quoting from it. You can't just say it. You have to show us. And this is what I hope that they move forward with. The show needs to stand on its own. You can't rely on what people may know going in. This show shouldn't just be for Dune fans. It should be for everyone who enjoys a good story, a story steeped in politics, religion, economics, ecology, steeped in political intrigue and drama and 4D chess level of deception and cunning to outwit your enemies. Like, we should see that. The show itself needs to establish these core elements and not rely on what others have done to do so. So when it comes to spice, I don't feel its immense value. Apart from one line that the Emperor says that if he doesn't get spice production going, the Landsraad will feed him to the worm. And that's it. That's all that they say regarding it. But how they treat spice, how it's incorporated into the story, I don't feel its weight. And even what he says doesn't really tell us anything about its true value. And you can't emphasize the value of spice without showing us the Spacing Guild, without them being a part of the story. They are intimately connected with how the Imperium works, how civilization runs, and it all depends upon spice. We have this assembly of the Landsraad. We're shown these leaders of great houses, but we don't see one guildsman. And I don't mind that we don't see a navigator just yet. I mean, that would be amazing, and I would hope we do. But we, at the very least, need to see the guild represented in this political landscape. This is a political tripod between the Emperor, the Landsraad, and the guild. Now, the guild don't care who's in power, so there is that. But they only care about who's in power, who can deliver on the spice, keep that flowing. So they have a vested interest in keeping the spice flowing. We haven't seen a single guild representative or a single mentat even. And that was another thing that I just didn't understand. We see the Bene Gesserit everywhere, and we see thinking machines everywhere, but we don't see one human computer. This is supposed to be that time where humans are adapting to life without sophisticated thinking technology. And again, the show just doesn't emphasize it. It doesn't stand on its own and emphasize these core elements of Frank Herbert's universe. Once again, the mentats were put in the corner, completely ignored. How are they not the most seen? You have all of these heads of these great houses with truthsayers by their side. How do not any of them have a mentat? Why does the Emperor not have one that he's consulting with? It makes no sense. So I hope that with season 2, that will change. Not to presume that the audience already knows about these things, already knows about the importance of spice and cares about the Easter eggs and lore references. You have to stand on your own and introduce the audience in a way to this universe anew within this show and inspire them to read the books. Don't assume that they already have. That's your job, is to lay the groundwork, to set up the world, and to have a story that is in the spirit of what it was written as. Hopefully, if you do it well, it's accessible to audiences when they don't hear a bunch of Easter eggs that mean nothing to them and mean ultimately nothing to the story. Have a really good immersive story that inspires them to learn more and to dig deeper into those other books. If they want to capitalize well and market it well, this opportunity in connection with Dune Messiah, I feel like they really need to do a good job of capturing audiences' imagination with season 2. They're going to have to do some work with the marketing, but the story at the end of the day is what's going to really draw people in. So if there's elements of Dune Messiah that will then be expanded upon and enriched with the show, that's a no-brainer that you would do that. With Dune Messiah, you have like the rogues gallery of all the factions of the universe coming together to try to take down the most powerful being in the universe. They're all having to use their own unique skill sets, and they each have their own agendas at work too. So this isn't a friendly alliance. This is just an alliance out of necessity. And if along the way they're going to prioritize their own agenda, they will. We're going to see the Bane Tleilax and their many products, their many genetic experiments, we're gonna see a guild navigator. You have to show the guild. So the show would just be making a massive misstep if it didn't capitalize and really expand upon those other factions in season 2. I would like to see more scenes on Dune, maybe advanced spice mining, and see a spacing guild navigator. Who's going to do it first? Now that's another thing. I'm not sure exactly, because all of Denis Villeneuve's films have been delayed. So even though we have that tentative December 2026 release, I really don't know what's going to come out first. Whether season 2 is going to come out first or Dune Messiah, either way, I think they should connect. We need to see the intricacies of spice harvesting. I want to see how deadly it is, how difficult it is, but also just how society is so dependent upon it for humanity to go to these risks in the first place. The films didn't really touch on this that much, but spice has so many other uses besides to aid in navigation. How do they word it? It has true geriatric properties. It extends life. It has vitality and health benefits. And you'd think that all the members of the great houses who can afford it would want it specifically for that reason alone. Yeah, we never really dive into that. And we see people using it as a drug, like an actual narcotic. And spice melange, it's an awareness spectrum narcotic. It's not a narcotic in like the sense that we know it as. It heightens mental awareness to where if you ingest it enough and in the right ways in certain doses, it expands your mind. It allows the navigators to foresee. It gives them prescience to where they can see and chart a safe path through space. It's fascinating. I would love them to really explore that in detail and see those intricacies surrounding spice. How much this substance is worth to the universe and to civilization as a whole to keep it running. I really hope that they emphasize that, and you can't rely on the films to do that. And even with the film side of things, they kind of just breezed over it. Paul is listening to a film book recording, and they say that, yeah, spice is used for the navigators to see safe paths through space, I think. It would be so amazing if we could see that. What the show did do that looked awesome, they actually showed a highliner coming out of fold space. That looked awesome. And that just inspired me, and it made me sad that we didn't see more because I looked so good. And I don't think even the films showed a highliner doing that. It seemed like it was possibly moving into position, but we mostly just see a highliner already in orbit of a planet. We see through it, so it's like a portal, but in the films, it also says that they did use navigators, and when the Emperor's procession came to formalize Duke Leto's stewardship of Arrakis, I think Thufir said that it took 3 navigators for them to come there. So how does that work? Please, this is what the show should do. This is what a spinoff should do. You can make it part of the story, and that's another thing. I don't want to just see a guildsman. I want to see a guildsman. I want to see the guild represented in the political intrigue of the show. That's true fan service. If you can establish the elements that Frank Herbert did, establish what he did right about this time period and these various institutions and factions, and incorporate it in the story that you're going to tell. And you can't have a Dune story without showing us how the political landscape works, especially when the Bene Gesserit are so connected to the political machinations of what's going on. Honestly, it just seems such a no-brainer thing to do. Like, this is a way that you can make fans happy, but it's part of the story. It's so ingrained into how this universe works, you can't help but have a story that touches on how guild navigators work, how much the universe is dependent on spice, show its addictive properties. And that's the whole thing that you want from a spinoff in the first place. Because yeah, film only has so much time, and even then, from Denis Villeneuve's films, I wanted more. I wanted it to be over 3 hours, please, because I was so in it, so immersed. So ultimately, I hope that this show can find its footing in season 2 and capitalize on the massive opportunity they have to complement Villeneuve's Dune Messiah and expand upon some of the fundamental and fascinating aspects of Frank Herbert's universe that most fans have missed in the recent adaptations so far. But I'm curious to know how you feel about the depiction of the spice and the spacing guild. Do you think Dune Prophecy Season 2 should lean into highlighting these core elements of Frank Herbert's Legendarium as the series progresses? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more Dune and other sci-fi and fantasy news and lore. And if you're looking for other ways to show your appreciation, you can check out my Patreon page, where members get access to exclusive content and perks. Thank you all so much for your support. And as always, have a very nerdy day.